You know what's kind of crazy right now? Hotels are packed, luxury condos are still selling like hotcakes, flights keep getting more expensive, yet most people don't feel richer at all. If anything, a lot of folks feel more squeezed than ever. So here's the real question. If regular Americans aren't suddenly rolling in cash, who exactly is still out there paying for all this? You know the feeling, you go out to dinner and the bill is higher than you expected. Housing feels even further out of reach. Even booking a normal vacation now feels like a bigger decision than it should. It feels like everything's going up except your paycheck. Sure, a lot of people say, that's just inflation. And yeah, inflation is real, but this feels different. The parts of life that really matter, housing, travel, convenience, the nicer stuff, those are the ones racing ahead the fastest. And that's the clue, because this isn't just a story about prices going up. It's about who can still keep saying yes to it all. And once you see that, a much bigger picture in the economy starts to come into focus. Here's the part most people never really think about. The folks really moving the needle here aren't just billionaires. Nah, it's the huge group right underneath them, regular rich people you've probably never heard of. They're not famous, they don't make headlines, but they've got more than enough cash to keep buying the expensive version of life. And there are way more of them now than there used to be. In fact, the number of US households worth tens of millions of dollars has grown a lot over the past few decades. Today, there are about 430,000 households worth at least $30 million, and around 74,000 worth over $100 million. That's not some tiny, rare group anymore. That's a real layer of the economy. And that's part of why they're so easy to miss. Most of them don't think of themselves as rich. They look at billionaires and think, that's rich, I'm just doing well. In their minds, they're just normal people who built a business, made smart investments, or held on to assets that kept rising over time. But the market doesn't care how they describe themselves. The market only cares about one thing. When they want something, they can still afford it. And once you have enough people like that, the entire system starts to tilt in their direction. And you can see that shift most clearly in how they spend. These folks don't just sit on their money, they use it. They're dropping $1,700 cribs for the baby, buying organic kibble for the dog, hitting gyms that feel like spas, flying business class, taking luxury cruises. Stuff that used to be only for the 1% is now just a regular Tuesday for them. For most people, those things are occasional splurges. For this group, they're just options. And that's where things start to change. When enough people treat expensive as normal, the market stops treating it like a niche. It starts treating it like real demand. That's why a $10 million home can still sell fast. Not because everyone is rich, but because enough people are rich enough. That's why luxury hotels keep expanding. Not because the average person is booking 5-star stays, but because there's always a layer of customers willing to upgrade. Even private aviation has started to shift. You don't necessarily need to own a jet anymore. Shared access programs and fractional models have opened that world to a much larger wealthy class than before. And once you notice that pattern, something clicks. The high-end version of life isn't just surviving. In more and more parts of the economy, it's becoming the baseline that markets build around. And this is where the deeper shift really shows up. These days, the economy isn't really built around the average customer anymore. It's built around the people who can still afford to absorb higher prices without changing much. Prices don't wait for everyone's income to catch up. They keep rising as long as there's enough demand at the top to support them. That's why so many things now feel out of reach. Not always because you're doing worse, but because someone else is pulling the ceiling higher than you can comfortably follow. A market doesn't need everybody to be rich to get expensive. It just needs enough people with deep enough pockets. And once that happens, everything starts adjusting around them. Builders build for them, hotels set rates around them, airlines carve out premium tiers for them, brands design products with them in mind. So when you look at a price and think, who is this even for? The answer is increasingly simple. It's not really aimed at the average person anymore. It's aimed at the people who still have room to keep saying yes. And this is where it gets a little uncomfortable. Even people pulling in what used to be big money, say 200 grand a year, don't feel rich anymore. 200K used to be you made it money. Now, it still feels like you're grinding just to stay in place. On paper, that's a strong number. But in real life, it doesn't always feel like it, because the cost of the things that matter most, housing, education, childcare, healthcare, has been rising way faster than everything else. These aren't luxuries. These are the foundations of everyday life. So you end up in this strange position where you're doing well, but it still feels like you're constantly adjusting, constantly budgeting, constantly trying to keep up. It's not that your income disappeared, it's that what counts as doing well moves higher. And this is where you get to the real engine behind all of it. At this point, it's not really just about what people earn, it's about what they already own. Most people make money by working. You trade your time for a paycheck, and that paycheck helps cover your life. It can give you stability, maybe even some comfort, but it usually only stretches so far. That's very different from owning assets. If you own stocks, a business, real estate, things that keep going up in value, your wealth keeps growing in the background. It builds over time, and it keeps building whether you're actively working or not. That's the part that changes everything. A paycheck can help you keep up. Ownership is what helps people pull ahead. And once you see that, a lot of what's happening starts to make more sense. When markets go up, the people who already own assets gain fast. Not because they suddenly worked harder, but because they were already in position. And then that money feeds right back into the system. They can absorb higher prices more easily, they can keep spending when other people start backing off, and that's how the whole thing keeps reinforcing itself. So no, this isn't just about income anymore. It's about the gap between people who live off what they earn and people who keep gaining from what they own. Put all of this together, and the picture gets a lot clearer. The economy isn't just getting more expensive, it's being shaped by a growing group of people who can keep spending even as prices rise. They're not the majority, but they're big enough and powerful enough to move markets. And once that happens, it changes how everything gets priced. So if life feels more expensive right now, you're not imagining it. But the story doesn't end with inflation. You're living in an economy where the people who can still keep saying yes are quietly setting the pace for everyone else. And that raises a bigger question. So from where you're sitting, what does this actually feel like? Do you think this keeps getting worse, or do you think something eventually gives? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more straight up breakdowns like this, subscribe.